would rather not have talked about. And she thought that that was part of her job. Can you imagine that? Well, what kind of society would it be if the people, of all the people in charge, started coming up with that opinion? But I do believe that Cynthia started. And if it's a snowball rolling downhill and it turns into a big snowball or a big snowman and it does something good, then we've got Cynthia to think about it. Uh, my friend's name is Maggie. If you're comfortable with it, I'll just turn you over. If you want to give kind of a synopsis of your background in the health field, what I know my father was killed, I feel, by the cancer professionals. That was my background, but if you do have identified something that really caused you to go in the direction that you've gone in, you might want to talk about that, share that with people, try to help them envision to the guidance, the things that happens in our lives that guide us in a certain direction. I know you made reference to that earlier when we were talking, and just basically anything that you'd like to share that you think people might learn from. I know I'd like to hear it, so go ahead and say hello to the listening audience and take off.
Hello, yeah, I'm Maggie Moline. I've been working with something called the SCIO device for probably about 13, 14 years now. And it's quantum biofeedback. Gosh, how did I get started? Well, back at that time, I was learning more about meditation and healing. I studied a little bit at the Southern California Psychic Institute, where we were learning how to read energy and about electromagnetic frequencies and doing healings of auras and similar things. And at that time, shortly thereafter, I had experienced this device that was invented by Bill Nelson. At the time, it was called the QXCI. They have an upgraded version called the EPFX, which is a blanket term for the SCIO and the QXCI. It's all the same technology. And it just really resonated with me where it just actually blew me away, mixing science with metaphysics and how it works. In 3 minutes, it reads over 10,000 frequencies going on with you at once, and then we can send frequencies back to balance your energy, where there's hundreds of programs within the software. It's something that it's a box that actually connects to your computer. And then there are straps that connect to the box that go around your head and wrists and ankles. This is biofeedback. And it's very subtle. It's totally safe, where it's not a jolting thing. It's a very subtle energies. It's relaxing. A lot of times people actually fall asleep when they're getting sessions from me because it just helps to calm them and in a relaxing kind of way. Actually, when we're sleeping, a lot of times we release subconscious energy and thoughts and process a lot of things in our sleep, for healing. And so sometimes that's what happens. But in any case, I have a website at wonderpowers.com. And talking.
Go through that again now, because now they've just about got the paper and pen to write it down.
Yeah, it's www.wonderpowers.com, and that talks a little bit more about the device and the kinds of things that I can do with it. I probably do some unique things with it. We have our own training that they have with the device. I have a license with Bill Nelson. It's from the Immune, and you can get a biofeedback certifications. But it's sophisticated, where there's really thousands of frequencies to work with, where people from all different backgrounds may work with this device. It's common with homeopathic doctors and chiropractors, and but in any case, so it's an alternative form of medicine, and if you had any questions about it, yeah.
Well, it sounds interesting. I haven't been to the website. You should prep your interviewers from time to time. But that's okay. I'm sure that you'll be on in the future, and I'll have time to take a look at it by now. And how long have you been doing this?
Well, about 13 or 14 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Long
And
time.
what was your original purpose? Did you have an original purpose that you'd hoped that was sent into to try to work on, or what are some of your experiences on results that you've seen?
Oh gosh, well, initially helping myself to kind of balance my energy. I was doing some acting at the time, and it kind of helps you to ground and get into characters for people to stay focused and, on track with dealing with stress and stressors. But then I began, to work with other people as a practitioner, and I've worked on all kinds of issues from, a cold and cancer to just about everything under the sun, a root canal, female issues, pretty much anything having to do with stress, which even the AMA, American Medical Association, would say that 80% of all diseases are caused by stress. So it can, help, and is really a responsible part of any wellness program is to use this device. It's, I think it's the best technology on the planet that I've seen for healing.
Well, that's a pretty good testimonial.
Yeah.
Best I've come across yet. So
Yeah.
that was one thing. I could just draw a comparison as I was watching this video that I was considering playing. And in fact, I probably will at least start and see how it goes. That's one thing that I was really impressed by. Ms. McKinney, McKinney. And now that the YouTube video has popped up, she was a former congresswoman from the District of Georgia, a district in Georgia. And I'm 99% sure it was in Atlanta, but I'm not absolutely sure. I know it's in Georgia. And what I was drawing a comparison on what you were just talking about is she is so calm in this interview. I guess Congress probably, they had a lot of tapes on her when she wasn't as calm. If she became a whistleblower in Congress, she no doubt drew the flack because she was over the target. And I guess this was probably an interview by people she knew, and the people she might even been prepped some on the questions. But since you can see the video, I'm pretty sure, I got this from Alexis Jones' website. I was watching a video on prisonplanet.tv, which is Alex's second or third website. And it's a subscription service, but you do get 15 days free. And for those who weren't on listening to the last show when I brought the Prison Planet TV up, prisonplanet.tv is the website. I do have an entry code, and when I originally got it, it was 10 people could be on it at once before the system would kick anybody off. And to tell you the truth, I don't know whether he had some people that got to 10 or not. But suddenly, for no apparent explanation, it turned into 20 people could be on. And I thought, well, that's great. I've never had a problem with the 10, but it's good to know that I can go to 20 now. And then I happened to hear a couple days later, somebody called in and they asked him about his explanation a couple days before. And that person spent a couple days trying to get on the show because they had a question that they didn't really get answered on the show 2 days before. So he readdressed a lot of the information that he talked about. And he made the same statement to her, if you get you can get 20 people on there on your account, and nobody will have any problems until you get the 21st one, and then somebody will get kicked off. And he said that, but if that's, and he was just in such a good mood because he got a chance to go through all that again, I think. And he doesn't do it enough. I will give him credit. He's a pretty tough taskmaster. He sticks right to the stuff that he thinks is important, and if people are buying enough stuff and he's not having any trouble paying his reporters and making all the other payments that he's required to make, then he probably doesn't do enough advertising. And I'm sure that he sells more when he does. So he did that, and I was kind of glad he did. But he was, like I said, he was in a good mood. So he told the lady, look, she says, since she was just getting ready to get an account, he says, and I'll tell you this, if you get to 21 people on your account and you get somebody kicked off, and the $5 a month is a problem, then just send me an email and remind me of this conversation. He didn't really say that anybody could do it, but I'm going to take it as that. He says if you get 21 on there and the person gets kicked off and the $5 a month is a problem, just send me an email and I'll give you your second account as an advertising expense. If you're going out there and introducing this to 21 people and somebody got kicked off, he'd just as soon put you on the payroll. Give you another account, see if you could get another 21 on the second one. Of course, most people's sphere of influence doesn't go that far, but that'd be a good thing to challenge. Most people's sphere of influence in this society isn't that large. But if it was, what kind of world would that be? Where we all knew maybe 50, 100, 200 people that we were close friends with and stayed in regular contact with. It would be a different world. I know I don't have hardly any people in positions of authority. The people that are running your lives and my life, we basically don't even know them. Heck, the only time we get to talk to them is when they want us to vote for them, or they're doing something political where they want to show up and make a good showing. Otherwise, I don't know where they hide out at. Never run into them much other than that. But I would like to get started with this. We'll go for a few minutes at least, and I'll kind of play off Maggie's reaction to this lady and see how she reacts to it. I watched it early this morning, and I was pretty impressed by the lady, who I'd seen on Alex's show before. And like I said, she's a whistleblower, considered a whistleblower from Congress. She was always willing to get over the target on 9/11, encouraging people. She makes reference to it on the show. She was always willing to encourage people to find out the rest of the story. And that's probably true about most everything. When we only get half the story, we're only half informed, or maybe even less. And we need more folks to make good decisions. Let's listen to what Cynthia has as far as suggestions to us. I'll be back in a while. Take care. I think I will.
Yeah. I'm Cynthia McKinney, the Congresswoman from the 4th Congressional District of Georgia, which is Stone Mountain, Georgia. That same Stone Mountain that Dr. King made famous in his I Have a Dream speech, and things have changed in Stone Mountain, but not quite enough. Basically, the most important thing to take to the people is the truth. And a member of the Atlanta City Council called me right after my now legendary remarks about what did the administration know and when did they know it about September 11th. He called me up and he said, Cynthia, once you become an elected official, you get the keys to the file cabinet. And they will even allow you to look inside the file cabinet. But Cynthia, you're not supposed to tell what's but America can afford it. And by the way, we need to spend more money on defense. And oh, oops, we also changed U.S. military policy so that we could seize foreign capitals and occupy them. Now, that was the announcement that Donald Rumsfeld made before the United States Congress without any discussion by the American people about what the implications were of, one, having lost so much money. Now, an accountant tells me that while they tell us that the money was lost, that it really is that the money went someplace and they don't want to tell us where it went. So we've got that situation, and then we've got a vast change in the U.S. military posture, and that will allow our military to go into foreign lands, seize their capitals, and then occupy them without one whit of national discussion about what that means. I voted no against all of the preliminary steps that were brought before the Congress to sanction the war against Iraq. But then the president in March of 2003 went into Iraq, and we learned what Donald Rumsfeld meant when he said seize foreign capitals and occupy them. You see, the Pentagon continues to tell the auditors, the nation's comptroller, the General Accountability Office, and the United States Congress and the American people that the reason they can't balance their books is because, well, you know, their computers don't talk to each other. And so, therefore, until they can get their computers to talk to each other, they won't be able to tell us where all of this money goes. Well, darn it. So I asked the question, well, who's got the contracts and how much has been spent? The comptroller for the Pentagon told us that $20 billion has been spent trying to get the computers to talk to each other. That is captured on tape. And they still don't talk to each other. It's a travesty. It's criminal. It's corrupt. And I just don't understand. It continues to amaze me why the American people allow this to continue to happen year after year, budget after budget, without a tremendous outcry. Not only are we far away from, we've deviated from our values in the area of military spending and the treatment of the Pentagon and how these people come to us and tell us these outlandish, outrageous stories, but we're also very far from American values in terms of the president's recent admission about the presence, the existence of secret prisons. Secret prisons where upwards of 14,000 people around the world are being held without access to an attorney, without access to even know why they're being held. Probably, in some cases, without even access to know where they are. Secret renditions, where the United States government is kidnapping people, kidnapping them. Torture. Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib, the photos from Abu Ghraib are just a mere indication of how far we've sunk in our own respect for human life, human dignity, in respect for our own international law place in Abu Ghraib. Guantanamo belonged to the United States. Illegal detainment of people going on, and the idea was to do Cuban soil, which is an extension, unfortunately, of American soil for that particular. Why? Well, thank goodness, even as partisan as the Supreme Court has become, even the partisan Republican Supreme Court has said enough is enough. I make it a point dog and pony show, which are an insult to the intelligence of most members of Congress. However, because I know that if I am told something, I want to tell it. If people deserve to know about it, I'm not going to keep secret values of our country. And so I've been, first of all, to know that they don't tell you anything new. You can read about it in Christian Science Monitor, New York Times, or any of them. Will have already written the stories, and they aren't actually going to tell. And so those classified members of Congress and people are not free to tell the truth to the American people. And obviously, we staff Richard Myers there. American defenses to respond to the attacks on September 11th. But now, of course, we know with the release of the FAA tapes that there was just mass confusion. And that now I believe that is on September 11th and coinciding. They're also not accustomed to members of Congress actually challenging them. In their response. For example, we had, and this was back when I was on the International Relations Committee, we had come in, and one of the members of Congress asked a question about Afghanistan and the quote tunnels, the camp.
talking about 9/11, and he called in. I give you can have this guy on. Major talk radio. If this was true, I'd have to hear it. I'd be hearing about it all the time. I'd be reading hearing about it on TV. This can't be true. And he was in he was here last Vegas. They were out at the Red Rock, and that Thursday, or that, I'm sorry, Saturday, they were able to reserve a small room at the library way out on West Sahara. And I got an opportunity to go out there. That just came out. Oh, if you're listening to the Las Vegas Boulevard, people who, friends and loved ones, still don't know whether they really died in those buildings or not. Main reasons is pilots for 9/11 truth. Where you can listen to archived versions of Alex Jones' show, and that's at GCN Live. Genesis Communications Network is what it stands for. .com, and you put in you select I think when last counted, I heard them say they had 50 radio shows that they archived. Definitely the rest of the week. You yourself out pretty quick. I heard he was definitely in his later 50s or military aircraft. How many years he was for 9/11 truth, and he explained that organization, he would stake his entire career on the fact that planes.
Yes, that's what I've been concluding.
They saw what they thought think, he just didn't dream that up. Fact for me that it's not what it appears to be, and you can see it on some of the videos that go into greater detail. When the buildings start falling down, girders, some of those pillars, the building's falling down and the steel girders are being forced as far away as a football field away. What kind of force? You'll see some certainly what it looks to me like. The concrete is breaking, but it's also see some of those steel girders as they descend to the ground. Some of them, they get about halfway down and they just disappear. It's a good trick. Kreskin should learn it, or some of those magicians, because that's what it looks like. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that's an excellent example on the over 1,000 people that are missing. Their friends, loved ones, acquaintances think that they were in the building, but they aren't. The remains back. Those people were turned to dust too. Now, I don't know if you have something like that, folks. I'm thankful to say that I don't know anybody like that. Some in the dust.
The laser weapon.
Steel girders in the dust and people in the dust.
I heard something about this. Some kind of technology supposedly. With
it looks like it certainly.
It's a low-grade nuclear. Dr. Judy Woods was talking. Followed some of her work.
Yes, that's agrees on this, and that'd be an excellent spot to take off on your research. See some of those videos of national political hacks that are, in the mainstream media. They're asking questions and trying to embarrass an individual or discredit someone. Well, Richard, if that's the government story didn't happen, then what did happen? And he says very calmly, just like Cynthia McKinney, that's why we need a real investigation, because the $20 million cover-up didn't cover all those facts. And you're going to have a hard time convincing me that those terrorists from the caves in Afghanistan came up with this weapon that can turn steel into dust, people into dust, and concrete into dust. Unless the aliens came down and gave them that weapon, I guess that maybe they got a knock came at their cave door and there were the aliens were, and maybe they gave them the weapon. I kind of doubt that, but it's a good thing to investigate and ask some questions about. And the groups are unifying now. Richard had with him a fireman from Seattle. Eric Lawyer is his name. Bald-headed young man, probably 35 or 40. He was really persuasive, folks. He had a lot of emotion in his presentation, just like I am right now, because it's embarrassing when you're wrong.
Well,
Especially when you speak out against somebody. He admitted right there on the tape, and I'll see to it that you get a tape as soon as possible. We'll probably still have a few. You might be able to get one this afternoon. It'll be firemen and firefighters for 9/11 Truth. Eric Lawyer is the head of the group. He admitted that for the first 2 years, when people were trying to get him to investigate 9/11, he just immediately reacted. If you believe that the government was involved in something like that, you need to leave this country. Can you imagine telling acquaintances and friends and coming off that strongly against people that were just trying to encourage you to, hey, you know, I looked at something, I didn't know what was happening there. You know, you're an expert, take a look at it, see what you think. That could have been their only inquiry. And he wants to accuse them of being unpatriotic and they should leave the country. And he emphatically apologized for that because he knows the difference now. In the next 2 or 3 minutes of his presentation, he explained to the American people. And I believe that's why he was converted. And he began to tell the American people that, look, folks, you're going to lose your country. You're going to lose millions of people if you don't do something. He never said anything about a wake-up call, but I think he would agree with it. I know Richard has agreed to come on the show in the days ahead. We'll be having him on as a guest. I encourage you to investigate Eric Lawyer. It's firefighters and firemen for 9/11 Truth. If you can watch that and you don't want to investigate something, to try to get clearer in your mind what happened to the thousands of people that were murdered, if you can't find in your soul a willingness to at least listen to some of the presentations of facts and think about it, then who's going to care when they come for you?
Yes.
That was one of the lessons that World War II taught us. There was, I'm sure most of you have heard the saying about I was Protestant and I didn't have to worry because I wasn't Protestant. And when they came for the Protestants, it wasn't that big a deal. And then they came for the trade unionists, but I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't have to worry. And then they came for another group of people, and I wasn't one of them, so I didn't worry about that. You know, everybody was keeping their head down and trying to stay under cover and not to be too outspoken. Folks, when you do that, evil succeeds. And that's what we need to guard against, I think, in the days ahead. Would you like to comment
Sure.
about what I've said, Maggie? I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your patriotism and devotion to the cause. It's wonderful and commendable, and people do need to pay attention to this. I've been following this story too. Like I say, I received information to find out apparently there were Saudi Arabians involved in this, but they think that it was linked to our government as well. As for those airplanes, I had studied at one point the YouTube videos that were posted and noticed that when you look at the different angles that you'll find you do not see a plane, only on other angles. And I have a friend who works hologram. Planes were holograms. What you see, they projected hologram, undertaking this whole operation. It sounds like they were holograms. However, we do have some people, with credibility. There were apparently some real involved that are missing or lost. McKinney with this secret somewhere going on. The question is, what happened to these people? That were apparently. I'm to research what Cynthia is talking about here, because these are all puzzles. Because everybody may have pieces of information to this thing to all play a part and to fight for
We have the wars is there are people in this world that loan money to both sides, and then they create the war. They demonize whoever needs to be demonized. The people we go to war, their country is not telling them that the United States, we know we're wrong. They're telling them they're wrong. Really depicted them as upstanding individuals either. They live in caves. I'm not sure that all of them live in caves. A Neanderthal, because it's certainly easier to hate somebody that to fight through and get through. But we have to get through that. It said, and I believe it's true when this country. That's when we had a lot of visitations, allegedly. That was, as an explanation, was that the advanced societies, we sent waves of whatever causes that throughout the universe, and they to destroy the whole universe. And they just weren't going to let that happen. As an actual thousands of people being murdered. See that it happened because they want you fearful. They want you to speak out. They want you to just never about everything, and that's there's the old federal courthouse is where we usually are located because there's bigger trees over there to find some shade, which has been important this summer. It won't be that important today. Of course, across the street is the new courthouse. There is a red and a flyer on everything on just that 2-page brochure, but it's that the media forgot to tell you about it. The most prevalent question is, what can I do when I start a conversation? The canopy at the afternoon. When I ask somebody that I don't know, it was about 1 out of 10. Oh, that's true. I say, well, what are you doing about it? And you know what the most common response? What can I do about it? I write down red alert, and I encourage people to go and listen to Alex Jones. I put red alert on it with an exclamation point, and I put check out or check. Maker and a talk show. 20 million listeners per week. I tell you folks, I've been telling a lot. 100 million people listening a week. We're at about 20 now. When we get to 100 million people, we'll lock up some of these psychopaths, and we'll be well on our way to society. So, can you do that? Can you pass out a couple? Yes, you could if you wanted to. Or you could, and I tried to say, you know, if you're not ready for it at this time, maybe it's going to take that city going up in smoke. A million, 2 million, 6 million people in the next city that gets false flag. Past may do that. They may choose to scare. I see that I've already overrun my time, and we're going to have to get